that's a great fight. That would be the perfect fight for boxing. I mean, and one thing that Devin would have to do with the Devin that we seen tonight, have no chance against Tank.
Why is that?
Because of the way he fought. He took way more risk than he needed to. I mean, with Tank, it only takes one punch. So you gotta when you fighting Tank, you're gonna have to fight precise. You're gonna have to be precise with everything that you do.
The spectacular fight between undisputed champion Devin Haney and top contender Vasily Lomachenko did not go the way many expected. One of the most talented and promising boxers of the new generation showed a frankly weak performance and certainly didn't make it to a unanimous decision. But if high-tech still couldn't stop the guy, who could? The main man for that role is dominant champion Gervonta Davis, who rightfully bears the status of the most fearsome puncher in the lightweight division. If everything works out right, he is the one who's next to fight Haney. A battle of two undefeated kings, but which one has the better chance? Let's find out. Friends, today's video will focus on the 5 reasons why Gervonta Davis will beat Devin Haney. Please don't forget about the likes, comments with forwards, and subscribe to the channel so you will never miss any upcoming videos. Here we go. Number 5. The mentality of a champion. Only a fool or an idiot would argue that Haney is a one-in-a-million genius. The guy was born to be a boxer, as evidenced by his undisputed championship at the age of 24. But youth does not always go in the favor of an athlete. By the standards of elite boxers, Devin is a snot who just came out of kindergarten, and it is clearly evident in his behavior before the fight with Lomachenko. Before the dream almost never showed his nerves and worries in public. Face to face with a monster like Lomachenko, Haney immediately lost the mental warfare. At every press conference, stare down, and everywhere else, Devin would get angry and try to piss off the Ukrainian while the man looked sedated and talked about his legacy and career plans. It seemed like if Haney and Lomachenko had been in the same bathroom before the fight, he would have gone on and on about how tough and dangerous he was. How did that help him during the fight? In no way. Cold-blooded Lomachenko was breaking his opponent down, and he didn't even raise an eyebrow. Now let's take a look at Gervonta. That son of a bitch is even more apathetic than Vasily. He sits at any public event with the look of a newly awakened man, speaking slowly and with pauses. No matter how hard Ryan Garcia tried, he only managed to get the champion to show emotion once, and not for very long. Davis has always been someone who has a knack for focusing his thoughts on one particular day to give it all away and then go on with a nonchalant look. The approach of a true champion, and that's something young Devin will have to learn, because fighting with emotions at such a high level has never brought anyone. Number 4. Right hand stance. For centuries, talented left-handed fighters has been the scariest people to face in the ring. It is difficult and time-consuming to learn how to fight properly against such an opponent. In a nutshell, it's impossible to box perfectly against a left-handed man at the age of 24. And I think you understand what I'm talking about. Once again, we must admit that Haney is very young and has not yet had time to learn all the skills, and Vasily, who is a southpaw himself, opened our eyes to that. I'm not saying that anyone with any left-handed skills is going to beat Haney. No way. For the most part, the fight with the Ukrainian went that way purely because of Lomachenko's own technique, but the stance also played its part. To prove it, let's remember an earlier dream fight against Joseph Diaz. At that time, Jojo was a very good, or rather a great boxer with good speed and style, which didn't help him to beat Haney anyway. But it wasn't a one-round fight. Diaz won 3 or 4 rounds, and he was very precise in throwing his left hand to Devin. What about the other good left-handed fighters were in the guy's career? You're right, there weren't any more. So in all of his 30 performances, Haney got in the ring exclusively against 2 really skillful southpaws, and both of them were able to catch him in tactical errors. Gervonta Davis is a well-armed southpaw. He is a restrained, patient, trained to a forbidden level knockout master who doesn't need more than one freaking opportunity. Any slip, a miscalculation of distance, or just a deterioration, boom! An uppercut or a left hook to the undisputed champion's head at breakneck speed, and that will be the last thing Haney sees in the ring that night. If Devin is really going to box against the Tank anytime soon, he needs to get his left-handed work up or his head will touch the canvas faster than the audience can blink. Number 3. Work with a tall opponent. Have you ever wondered what is the rhyme with the same fate? Good question. The dream has always been bigger or at least equal in size to those the matchmakers have thrown against him. So he's learned to stand up against boxing dwarfs, but he's yet to face a pace and distance manipulator like the Tank. And there's a possibility that Devin doesn't yet fully understand what he has to go through in a fight like this. Number 2. Endurance. How many boxing stars have never shone because of such a trivial criterion as cardio? But no matter what the great minds of the trainers come up with, if a guy's stamina is abysmal, he can't be a champion. And this rule works even in the heavyweight division, just because getting tired is the same as getting knocked out voluntarily. This is the reason why everyone works so desperately on their endurance and why most of the athletes show truly marathon-like achievements in terms of cardio at a higher level. Devin Haney is not someone who can be openly accused of poor stamina. He doesn't rush around looking for oxygen tanks or looking pityingly at the timer in his bouts, but he does slow down sometimes. That was the case against Jorge Linares, who gave a super close fight against the current champ, winning at least 5 rounds in the second half of the fight. And of course, Haney went down in cardio against Lomachenko, mentioned for the 100th time in this video. The independent judges card told us about it. They gave the Ukrainian the majority of the later parts. What does that mean in the context of the fight with Gervonta? Well, most likely about the murder in the 8th or 10th round. Tank is exactly the kind of fighter for whom fatigue is not inherent at all. In fact, he often arranges his game plan in such a way that he can tear his opponents apart after the equator of the encounter, when they are already tired, while he, on the contrary, has a great taste for it. This has been the case with all of Davis's high-profile opponents except Garcia, who hasn't even had time to tire yet. It turns out we have a boxer who in theory can be exhausted by the end of the fight, and a boxer who knows how to wear down and knock out opponents in late rounds. This fight is looking more and more like a blatant suicide for Haney. Number 1. Explosions. It's time to talk about why Gervonta is still undefeated, and more specifically his main thing is the explosion. Tank is not the fastest guy on the block. Garcia was almost 100% better in terms of speed, but that doesn't apply to all moments of the fight. At short intervals, when Gervonta sees a gap or clamps his opponents at the ropes, he switches on all the resources of his body and launches a wild explosion from which it is almost impossible to get out alive. That's what I call a blast. This is the moment when Davis is at his most impetuous, his attacks cause catastrophic damage, and his reflexes go to a kind of bestial level. These seconds of energy release are very similar to the young Tyson style, which is why these guys are sometimes compared to each other. First round to Haney. Devin will be in his usual style of shoving the Tank on the other side of the ring, running away at the sight of danger, boxing to the body and generally looking cool, but gradually things will start to change. As soon as Gervonta feels the first signs or even hints of fatigue, he will start having explosions, and each time they will be stronger and stronger. Haney will be afraid of Davis, he'll try to fight back, which will cost him even more energy, and eventually he'll get a left hook after the 6th round or so. No coach has yet told his mentee how to beat Davis's explosion, and those who could do it in theory just ran out of steam and ended up getting knocked out anyway. It seemed to me that the same fate awaits the current undisputed champion, Devin Haney. Yes, the guy's talented and has a whole bunch of different keys, but the old Ukrainian showed that Haney isn't almighty. He can be beaten, he can be outpaced, and most importantly, he can be hit. Gervonta wouldn't need much more than that. Honestly, I've got every possible matchup in my head, but I can't think of anything more interesting than Davis Haney for the lightweight division. It's always intriguing when two previously undefeated boxers meet, and here it's an undisputed championship on the line. This is a catastrophically rare event, and there are very few examples of this in history. Now, the Tank has a known problem with the law, but it seems that the situation is slowly improving and the talented puncher will be able to continue his career. If that's the case, I'm sure fans will not hesitate to give their souls just to see Gervonta against Haney in the ring. Two members of the younger generation should finally fully test each other's skills and bring out the best, the one who will be followed by the entire weight class in the near future.